It's wonderful that we're all here. A blessing and a gift. It seems a good idea to remind ourselves that we are very much alive. Dare we enjoy it? Not as a summary, my life is wonderful. Can we enjoy it minute by minute? Sit someplace, park, a jail cell, wherever you happen to be. Say, wow, hey, I'm really in here. Feels good. I think that'll take us a long way with ourselves. Wow. With our minds, can we make this thing even bubblier? That's it, little bubbles coming out of it. Are you bubbling in there?
Oh, I am.
Good, good.
Yeah.
And do the expensive stuff.
Yeah.
Are you signing checks? 2 R's. I often catch myself, I should be concentrating on some sort of a lotus, or my legs should be crossed behind my ear. Should be poppies or something rising, waterfalls. And I get too tired for that. Just sit there, have a cup of coffee like I'm doing now, and say, wow, this is great. Just to sit here and bubble, as you say, and feel good. There should be some sort of a formal meditation, but don't tell anybody, or else they'll have it all over, and somebody will come along and explain it to you for $50 a year. Sit someplace and feel good. Are you feeling good in there?
Very much so.
Very much so. Wow. How did you pull that off?
It's, well, some of it's just happening, I can't explain it, and some is attention, I guess.
Do you think you can do this more often?
Definitely.
Definitely. Okay. Very affirmative tonight. Definitely. It means anytime you want, you can sit down and say, wow, yippee, hot dog. You're fixed. Okay, nice. It is so marvelous to have you here. To look upon you is one of the pleasures in my life, you know.
Vice versa.
And we have a box full of things that say you.
All right. We're going to have to create some revenue streams.
Revenues?
Revenue streams, yes.
A revenue stream.
We should have kept the box.
There's money in them there boxes. Those were great times, just looking through the titles.
We were creative back then.
I think there was one title called Pamela Walks on Mars. It was a great evening. Good to see you, sir.
You as well.
If you're not too withholding with it, would you tell a little, in your own words, a little bit of what happened with you and I lately?
All of a sudden, I was swept up by the idea of moving to Michigan very soon in February under the auspices of making music more than I'm currently able to, or so I thought. I wanted to move there, move into my father's house, essentially have free rent, and just make what I was calling the best music of my life at the time. I carried this idea to the Tuesday night men's group, and I shared it. I shared it with a number of other people in my life, seeking advice on it, even saying things as, please, if you see any kind of monster behind the curtain or anything that I'm not saying, please share it. And possibly because of the way I was presenting it to people in a very, very bright fashion, I probably didn't even explore the pitfalls of it or the reasons not to go there, why it wouldn't make sense with many people. Not many people disagreed with it. And as soon as anybody, namely Derek, asked the question, well, can't you stay in New York and make the best music of your life? Not that that's a great idea, but could you do that? To which I immediately had some elaborate answer of why I couldn't do this. And so I shared this idea with Mr. Gill over the Skype, and it was Sue Terry as well. And Mr. Gill shared that the only part of the plan that didn't make a whole lot of sense to him was that I was moving in with my parents, or my father specifically. And during this phone or Skype conversation, quite quickly, for one reason or another, I didn't hear what I wanted to hear, disliked it, became angry, did not express any of that anger in the Skype meeting. But once the Skype meeting was over, I realized, I remember up to that point, and then after that I have no clue what anybody said, him or I. Thank you, call recorder. I'm going to revisit the Skype conversation again. Rewatched it, found all kinds of piles of gold, of course, took notes on it, and really just sat and explored for about a week or so the idea of moving in with one's parents, what it means, and if I really do agree or disagree, because immediately I disagreed with it. I said, it's fine, you can move in with your parents. I don't think it makes a difference. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But the fact that I was so angry about this caused me to go back and really re-examine the issue. And in fact, at this point, I truly don't believe there is anything wrong with moving in with one's parents. But I re-examined it, and for practical purposes, for paying off debt and a number of other things, it makes the most sense for me to stay here right now. But that was the first time I've revisited a Skype call with Mr. Gill, or anybody for that matter, and quite a valuable thing.
You're no longer angry with me?
No.
Okay. People who are angry with me have to pay more. It's only fitting. An extra $18 a week. That makes sense. It's a good number. 18. 36 and there. But you can be as angry as you want for the same $18. You can be furious. You can have a picture of me and throw darts at it. That's the full 20. I have to figure this out, but as long as you're not mad anymore.
May I add one more thing?
Please.
Mr. Gill said, if a man wants to truly do something, he can do it in the middle of Africa by himself. If you say you want to do something and for whatever reason you're not doing it, you're probably just dancing around. And so, true to form, I've been making some of my favorite music of all time. And being here and staying here, I just made some changes in my life to where I can record music, more of my own music here. And
Today, I think I mentioned that Bayard Lancaster, who was one heck of a terrific jazz clarinetist, he used to play in the park in Philly. And every day, a bunch of people would get together, 3, 4, 5, 10, just go down to the park with your horn and play. And there was generally somebody to play with there, and that's where you practiced, and the neighbors didn't complain, and every once in a while somebody threw a quarter or something. Yeah. Also, I mentioned that very, very often, dare I say most often, very often somebody asks you for your advice. And then one good response is, if you ask my advice, you have to take it. Or else they're window shopping, hunting around to see who's going to agree with them. And when they find somebody who agrees with them, you're right. Now I understand. Of course. They're simply looking for somebody to agree with them. So when somebody asks you for your advice, certainly, but you have to take it. Right away they cool down, and with a little good luck, they never come around again. They steal right in front of your very eyes. They steal. God. She would sit in front of Henny Youngman and copy his act. Right.
I don't think they know who Henny Youngman is.
Hmm?
I don't think they know who Henny Youngman is.
I wonder if you know who Henny Youngman is.
I'm old enough to know.
You don't look that old.
Thank
Well,
you.
Maybe. I don't know. Henny Youngman was a comedian who played every place that you can think of in the world. Henny Youngman played there. Same act. And there was one good thing, because if he played at any major hotel, the early show, 8 o'clock, he got a nice price. He also did another show later on, the late show. Not such a big price. And if your spot lay anywhere between Monticello and New York, he would play in the dumbest, most broken down dive you've got for a few dollars. I mean, on the way home, you pick up whatever you can. And his jokes were always the same. And I kind of thought they were funny. He never changed the line. Never. That's true. Mal Z. Lawrence would tell you the same thing. Don't change a line. And all the comedians that played never changed the line, except in a late show somewhere or in somewhere else where you could gamble and take a chance. But when you've got a good line and the audience is laughing, you don't change it. So how does it feel being a New Yorker again?
it's good.
Yeah. Pretty soon it might be a good idea to start sending your father a check. That's the nice way to do it. After a certain age, start paying back for all they gave. Do you have anything to say to me?
Why?
something. So, you know.
I don't want you to dig into the archives just for this. Did you arrange that? You arranged to tell me something,
It was me.
and you let him get the honors. You weren't going to speak up.
Well, I was kind of waiting to see what he'd come up with.
Uh-huh. Oh. There's a very fast room. You have to be hip here, because this audience will eat you alive. Sir, you were thinking.
We were speaking, I guess, yesterday, and the idea of taking an aim in front of a group came up. And really, I realized actually I don't think I've ever taken an aim in front of this group, nor have I heard many in my time here, but I know that of course I've taken aims with the men's group. And there's just the concept of putting something into words, putting it out there in front of people that you love and respect. And so I would like to take an aim tonight in front of this group. And I think also just to bring that concept back, it's important to me at the moment.
You've had experience with aims.
Yes.
Yeah.
With
Could you
you.
speak a little bit about it, what it's done for you, what you think is good about it?
Well, what I understood it from you and tested it and found it true was that it's about borrowing someone else's will to a degree, or maybe strengthening your own will could be another way to put it. I remember my first aim with you was to wake up every day at 7 o'clock, not 7:01 or 6:59, but 7. I was to call if I didn't make it, and I remember more than a few phone calls that were logged on the 718 line. But what was interesting about it was that that was the beginning of AIM for me, but a way of changing yourself, changing how you make promises to yourself, how you keep them, or maybe seeing how you don't. And just giving you a place for the ship to aim towards. I think life is such that we're constantly being pulled here and there. It's good to have something to hold on to say, you know, this is what I am doing. I have promised this. And maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it's an aim that wasn't going to work. But that even in itself would be a lesson. Also, one more thing you've said many times is to make it an aim that you can achieve.
What do you see as the benefits of an aim that you can achieve?
That you can build upon the knowledge that you can do.
Does doing something once alter your capacity for doing it again?
It certainly improves the possibility that you can do it again. You have success at doing it once. You certainly fail again, and probably will.
I often find myself not even thinking about it, but things that I have done a lot, and some people around me have done a lot. Pam was a very good aims person. So was Paula, Joan. You did a fair share of aims too. It's so easy to say, gee, I can't do this, or I want to change that, or for some reason we're dissatisfied with some aspect of our life. And generally, the first thing we do is complain about it to ourselves, find a kindly ear and complain there. But it falls in the realm of complaining and being frustrated. And the way, just out of almost every situation that I can think of, is to take an aim, which means that the individual will do something to better his position or to better the stance of the individual towards performing better. Gee, I want to take an aim to be more truthful. Is worthless. An aim has to have a shape, a time frame, something definitely doable for X amount of time. Because then we have to reevaluate, is the aim working? Am I drawing a little closer to the goal I have in mind? So it must have a frame, must be something that's simple and can be done. Must be something that you value. Must be something that you can check with somebody else. I did this today or I didn't do it today. Nowadays it's contemporary talk to think about muscle memory. And it's very, very true. There's also emotional memory, thinking memory. And like you say, if your aim is to get up at 6 o'clock, you must get up at 6 o'clock. Set the alarm, do whatever you have to do. If you did it, you've increased your capacity to do it. If you fail at doing it, you must call somebody and say, I attempted and I failed. Then you can study why you failed and what you can do to turn failure into success, which in itself is a good piece of knowledge to have. Do you remember your aim with getting up?
Oh, yes.
If you had said yes, it would have meant one thing. But oh yes is worth spilling the anecdote.
Well, it came in several forms, but the most memorable is, in order to wake up, I bought an alarm, the kind of alarm, like an old-fashioned alarm, it's about this big. Like how you would have, an alarm in a building when the building is being robbed. That's how loud the alarm was. And then the alarm was hidden in my storeroom. So I had to...
Was there a key to the storeroom?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. So turning off the alarm would probably turn out to be quite an achievement.
Yes.
Spluttering and muttering, nightgowns are flying in the air while people hunt all over to find where this red alarm is going off. Sounded a lot like a burglary scene in a movie.
Sounds like something from a David Lynch movie. For sure.
Do I get credit for having suggested that?
Yes, you get credit.
I get credit.
But I think just in the idea of aims, that in a very clear way, it moves personality out of the driver's seat. And that shift occurs because personalities, that's probably our guest, personalities don't take aims. And that very core idea is true.
Very well said. Personalities do not accept aims.
Excuse me, we've given this
Go ahead.
person permission from coming.
For instance, an aim may be, when I see this or that, I will do this or that.
Okay.
A personality changes every few minutes. What one personality says means nothing to the rest of the personalities or to other personalities. When you take an aim and do what the aim reads, then you're also strengthening the essential self that remembers that it was 2 days ago or 20 days ago or 40 days ago that it came to the conclusion of an action that it said it would do. And it continues to do so. And when another personality takes over that part, and there is a disruption, then you check in or check yourself and see the part that was here today was not in accord with that aim, doesn't do it, probably isn't even too interested in it. Piece, by taking aims, we begin to weave a tapestry, the results of which are, when I say I'm going to do something, naturally I do it. I've learned and practiced to do exactly what I said I would do. Oh my God. Do you know who that is?
No.
Oh.
Do you?
Hmm?
Do you know?
Do I know who it is? Of course I know who it is. Good to see him. So we're strengthening that part of ourselves that is based upon the idea of I do things. I obey myself. Then you wind up being a person who says they'll do something, whether they say it to other ones or they say it to themselves, I will do this. That is it. I will do it. Done. Hello, John.
Hi, thanks, Bill.
Know this man many, 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 many years. Good to see you. As a society, within a limited structure that I've observed, seen, experienced, it's become acceptable that you don't do what you say you're going to do. And to a point where people hardly even expect it of you. Oh, well, I'm going to call you Saturday. Saturday comes and goes. Tuesday. Oh, well, yeah, I got hung up. Oh, you got hung up. Well, of course, that's understandable. How can you call somebody when you get hung up? So within a very, very brief span of years, I can range from my being a teenager, generally when we said, I'll come over tomorrow at 7 or 2 or 3 or whatever, there were no telephones to cancel. There weren't any little things that you beep or talk or do, nothing. I can recall on my hands, or one hand, the times that people didn't show up, or I didn't show up, or somebody else didn't show up. You said you were going to be at somebody's house at 7 and you were there. Naturally. You said you would, so you are. What have we done as contemporary people to make it all okay? Well, you said you didn't call. That's all right. I can understand that. Whatever you said that you don't do is understandable. You're not expected to be a person who does what you say you'll do. And if there is here and there a person who does what they say they'll do, well, we have to describe them as eccentric obsessive. I think that's the new, one of the new categories in the psychoanalytic dictionary. Compulsive obsessive, yeah. Grade 1, 2, and 3. And the number for it is 477A. So that you can bill through Medicare. If it doesn't have a number, you haven't got an illness. What the hell is that? An illness without a number? You mean you just don't feel good and we're going to give you money for that? No. You don't feel good, but you've got a number? Okay, that makes sense now. Hello there, John.
There you go.
Tell me what you've been up to.
Starting when?
Not again. Not again. I live in dread. I once asked this guy to tell his life story, and he began with his grandfather's migration to the United States or something. And we were about an hour and a half into it, and we were just getting to his parents.
You know,
The good stuff.
the amazing thing was going down to Staten Island and filming some of the people who were totally slammed by the storm, and to sit there, filming there by the tomb of a little girl and father who perished in the flood. You know, and around it is like total devastation. Walls from how you've seen it on television.
Yeah.
But the astonishing thing is to go and be there with those people who are supporting each other and some force of faith, you know, just going on minute by minute, building, rebuilding, you know, with it was really quite an extraordinary experience. Yeah. And then also we're just talking about work now, but filming the conspiracy of the murders of John and Robert Kennedy. Stories told by people who were with them, like we're here in this room together. Those people who were there, filming those stories. I've been doing that. It's very, very intense stuff and privilege.
You've had quite a fine life.
Yeah. Thanks to you as well, Gil. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much you've enriched all of us, and particularly me, this broken vessel.
Weren't we all? That was 72nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, you worked with Ames.
Yeah, sure.
And
Well,
so-
you tutored us in that structure,
Yes.
the good structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Few of these people have not worked that way. Have not worked that way to any depth. For whatever we want, or whatever you want, it must be worked towards. The work must be consistent. The work must be directed enough and repeated enough to overcome the resistance that is keeping a person where they are. So I offer, and I wish to state this, whatever you feel could use repair or fixing or adjusting or whatever you have in mind. The idea is to be before a group like this, or myself or individually, but somehow make sure that I'm able to help you frame an ambition in a manner that's doable, that's suitable for you, and that I will become aware of. I'll be partaking in it. That means that if you let yourself down on Tuesday and you don't do it, that would have been one story if I hadn't been involved. But when I am involved with your aim, with you, then also know very well that you've let me down on Tuesday too. And generally the idea is, it didn't happen today. I wish to tell you that, etc., etc. We see why, we fix it, but believe me, wherever you're going and whatever it is that you want from life, I promise the way to make sure that you achieve it, if it's achievable, and it should be because it's an aim, is to do it and do it and do it and do it courageously. Without an aim, we're like leaves on a fall day, on a breezy fall day. We float here, we float there, and nothing really happens. And that's very important. It's one of the cornerstones of this work, and basically any kind of work that gets done. The joke, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. Yes, musicians become people who are very cognizant of the idea that you have to practice and do and redo and train your mind and train your fingers and your muscles and everything, and keep doing it. And if you lay off the flute or the trumpet for 3 or 4 days, will you know about it the second you pick it up? It doesn't sound like you. And that's 3 days gone from a person who has been playing for years and years. 3 days make a difference. So imagine, compare that to many situations you have found yourself in, and it's easier to understand why the things you want aren't here right in your hand. It is not that hard to get what you want. It requires a wish, a strong desire. Tony Robbins will tell you all about that. He's got 50 or 60 minutes on tape that you must have a strong desire. And he's right. And don't let this go. Ask for help from your own different parts of your psychological makeup. Ask for help. Inevitable. In my mind, I just threw in my cup. Lord, forgive me, I'm going to do it again. We've come to what we accept to be the age of self-help. Self-help gave way to breeding a culture of self-help helpers. If you can't do it yourself, there's somebody in the phone book, you call him up, he'll help you help yourself. There are more therapists for every conceivable necessity in the world. There are therapists who will improve the vision of your eye tooth. Very small little glasses, but they get them in there. Why? Because you have complexes. A complex, as I recently congealed, is like a group of apartments or a group of buildings. So an inferiority complex then means a group of ideas describing your description to yourself that you are inferior, you've got an inferiority complex, and then you go to see somebody about it, and they put a number on it, and the state will help you pay it or something. The idea being that whatever you've got, either you have brought it to be, or your money has brought it to be, or your daddy has brought it to be, or your dog, if you will. However, I'm presenting again and again and again. You rascal, you. I'm presenting that many of our ideas, just imagine, just go mad with me for a few minutes. You don't have to stay that way. I did, but you don't have to. There are ideas floating around all over. Millions of ideas all over the universe. Ideas about everything. And you grab one of these ideas to look at it. That's interesting. The idea jumps into you. It's an idea you never had before, but now you're walking down the street saying, gee, if I were a little taller, I could be the next John Dillinger. And that idea comes and goes, and next afternoon you're at a soda fountain, and another idea grabs you. You know, Lana Turner was once sitting at a soda fountain in Los Angeles, and somebody came in and said, gee, you're a pretty girl, you want to be a movie star? Sure. Then she became, wow. That even gets worse than that. These ideas floating around, that we simply adopt ideas that we've heard. All you have to do is hear an idea, then you know the idea, now you adopt it and bring it into your life. Of course, simple knowledge. However, as we depart from the role of the living and we go biddy bye, who can prove to me, at least beyond the shadow of my doubt, that that entity is not somehow still able to communicate ideas with my mind or his mind or anybody's mind? There, invisible, of course, in the corner, is Deadwood Joe, who wanted to be the fastest drawer in Kansas. And he was almost the fastest drawer in Kansas. Henny Youngman, where are you? This is the Late Show. Well, he went to his grave on Boot Hill. He's dead. He who wanted to be the fastest gun in Kansas is now dead. Is he dead by whose standards? Dr. Phil? Who are we going to know? Is it possible that he is there walking around the street or sitting in the bank wondering if he could ever do it or what have you, and he's thinking and presenting ideas and his old dreams and his old wishes, and along pity walks somebody, tap, the idea hits them. They reach the end of the block, and suddenly it occurs to them that if they went home and practice their draw, they could be the fastest gun in Kansas and Wyoming. Suddenly this calm fellow who was content to make pizzas at Gray's Pizza on Broadway and 72nd Street now is walking around with a burning desire to hold up banks, maybe kill Jesse in the back, and be this or that. Or maybe there are even more ideas than that. Ideas that nobody likes me. That's what the Spirit felt, and now he's passed this idea on to you. You have been possessed by an influence from another world, no spirit world. Dig that. You never wanted to be the fastest gun. You never wanted to be, you probably didn't, a glamorous movie star, like, I don't believe that you ever wanted to be a surgeon like Dr. Kildare. But suddenly, you have a burning desire to do so. Well, it's not something that it says you did it yourself. I propose that there are entities living in their own manner, of course, who are able to enter your mind and possess you and give you ideas. Now what do you do with these ideas that you've got that you did not fabricate? That you don't know how to put in or take out? And sad to say, don't have a number. So you can't even get Medicare to pay for it. You walk into Medicare office and say, yes, how do you feel today? I feel I'm the fastest gun in the West. And if you don't pipe up, I'm going to blow you right out of your chair. Oh, yeah. How long have you been feeling this way? I think we have somebody that can help you. Who says that all the ideas that you have, all the feelings that you have, and everything else that's pattering around inside you is created by you or created to you? Is it possible to find that the originator of this idea was not just a Johnny-come-lately who wanted to be the fastest gun in Kansas? He's not. I am. But maybe that this idea was put there by some being who existed 300 years ago. 500. Oh, yeah, you get that old itch. This is Genghis Khan talking. So you really don't know where your ideas come from, but they find, for some reason, a fertile idea in your mind, or in your wife's mind, or in your friend's mind. That one they don't teach you, because it's pretty hard to teach it and pretty hard to solve it. I present that the same way we don't know what happens to someone after they expire, what happens to their ideas after they expire. What do you think, Stefan?
Just been reflecting, one of the things that you taught is you taught that images are never forgotten. And as you're sitting here tonight talking, I'm remembering so many images from years ago. You're talking about aims, and I remember sitting down on North Moore Street one evening, and I was talking about this or that with my life, and you said finally, you said, stop talking. Don't just talk. Mend the sails. And I thought about that. My first reaction was, well, what do you mean mend the sails? I don't sail. And I made some comment like that, and then you said, well, what do you actually do besides talk? And that was a hard question to answer.
It still is.
It hasn't gotten any easier, has it? But that's the. I think that's part of what I got from taking on different aims. Just this idea that it comes down to remembering either physical action or not a physical action, but remembering at 2:00, I am alive. I want to live. And then calling if you did forget that at 2:00. Or I remember fighting with a salesperson. I spoke so much to Gil about somebody. Gil used to accuse me of my main point in life being please like me. I'm going to people in different ways saying please like me. Wanting to please different people. So one of the aims that I was given was to go fight with a salesperson. Fight with a salesperson. Fight with a salesperson. I don't give a shit when they fight with a salesperson. Just go pick a fight. I went to Macy's, was picking a fight with a rug salesperson about the price, getting very upset. So, yeah, images are never forgotten, and things need to be done, and that stayed with me in different ways, and to the extent that I've been able to help other people to cross my path for some reason or another. A lot of it is around that. Bringing it down to something very, very specific that needs to be done, and helping people do it. So you asked, is it easier the second time once you've done it? Is it easier the third time? Of course it's easier the second time, and it's easier the third time. Another image that you had left me with that I thought of often is in as an answer to what I would always say is kind of what difference does it do this or do that, or what ultimate difference does it make? And Gil's answer was in a dark room, if you light a single candle, well then it's not quite dark anymore, is it? And that's so once you do it at 2:00, once you fight with the salesperson, of course it's easier the second time, it's easier the third time.
Bless you, Stephen.
Stephen has an extraordinary memory. And as we just heard, some of the things that he recalls. And I remember Stephen sort of coming along into this community. And he said that he wanted a place at the table. More in terms of ideas, friendship. And I think I said to him, well, you have to deserve it. And I think people come into this work that want to be here. And there are people that are feeling that they should be courted, that they're choosing the teacher, they're choosing the community. And that's never the case. If you have that idea that you're shopping, you don't belong. You either come into a circle, and that's where you belong, and you know that. And it's very clear. And so, but I also always find about Stefan that he was clear always about the images that he valued, the people, what he to me always saw things more as an artist. That there were so many impressions, and he could always comment on all those impressions and take them in and eat them, to really enjoy them and find all these various things interesting. And by him being that way, he reinforced what you were about, what the other person was about, or persons. So I always value everything he ever said to me, because it was that kind of pointing out the beauty and the humor or whatever about so many things, that you remember them more intensely because of his seeing what you were made out of. So it's really nice to have him this evening. And he's one of my dearest and lifelong friends.
When I was in Psychoanalytic Institute, professor, they put out the idea that you should bring into class a word-by-word description of your entire psychoanalytic hour with somebody. Tried and tried, I couldn't do it, man, I couldn't do it. Some did it worse than me, some did it better than me, but I couldn't do it well. To this day, I have hundreds of cards that Stefan wrote out, meetings with me back in 1993 or 92 when they're word for word, Gil said, blank, 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 written all out. Stefan said, blank. A ton of cards per meeting. I have maybe 4 or 5 or 6 boxes of cards. This man remembers everything you tell him and everything he hears. A born psychoanalyst, but he wants to continue having a good job. Don't trade in. Yeah. The idea, like always, is not, is this true, or is that true, or is this not true? You look at something, I think it's true, I think it's not true. It doesn't matter. You don't learn from having your idea reaffirmed that this is true and your idea reaffirmed that this is not true. Don't learn from that. You learn from thinking, could this be true? Is it possible that it's true? Is it possible that there's a word of truth in it? Once you let in an idea, 10% of an idea, 50%, 90%, 100%, 1%, you're thinking. And by thinking, you're learning and you're expanding the amount of material that can come into your mind or being. So it doesn't matter whether the idea of the bad man with the Dakotas is true or not true. What does going through the idea open to your mind? Can that be so? Little boy wants to be like Marconi and invent something. Is that because he read it in a book in school? Is it possible that that force of being that was Marconi can still communicate with those for whom it's right to communicate with? we've accepted as a community here, as a community in our time. Yes, we've lived before. We remember people from past lives. In the 60s, everybody had a past life. You too? You're nodding your head.
I was agreeing with you. Everybody had a past lives. 60s.
In the 60s, everybody had a past. And you spoke about it all the time. Hey, man, how are you? I haven't seen you in 300 years. How you been? Is there a word of truth in that? That's all it takes is a word, a syllable. Can it be? Because constantly people are thinking, and what is yesterday's total madness. What do you mean, a man flying through the air in a metal slab or something? Becomes ordinary JFK every day. So the things that we speak of that seem like, holy smoke, we don't know, they may become tomorrow's proven fact. If you suddenly have an idea, XYZ, you serve well by listening to it, watching it, not obeying it. Maybe you can't disobey it, but maybe you can to a degree. And add to your present store of work ethics, maybe it's not your idea. There are ideas. All right, if an idea is energy, can energy be destroyed? No, they say. I don't know, but they say no, energy can't be destroyed. So what was once a living body can't suddenly become a non-living body. There's living. Oh, you read the same books I do. Parallel universes, of course, you did. Where does all this stuff fit into your present ambition, your present state, your present life? It's easy to try to think of the things that were fed to us. Now we're eating from a little bit more rarefied atmosphere. Does having a few people in your life who do not disrespect you or think you're whatever they think, does having a few people who you feel close with that are on your side, does that change the way you think and live? I say yes. Somebody may say it doesn't matter. You said to me that after I said that maybe it wasn't just a hot idea that you go back to Detroit, you spoke with a few people. I'm glad that you did, and I'm glad that you realize it, and that we're all here to share that knowledge. Because these people that are here, they all have minds. I am not the only mind here. They all have minds. When you go through a roster count of who is in these rooms, there's a lot of heavy hitters in this room. Holy smoke. Sit down with him and hear his background. Wow. He's a man with a background. Wow. A composer. Wow, heavyweight stuff. Woman of the Year from her school, jazz player known to... When something is on your mind, call people here. They are intelligent. They care for you. They care for you because in part they realize that in caring for you, they care for themselves. Use them. an issue of dealing with other people. This man deals with other people 100 hours a week for the last 30, 40 years, I don't know how many, at a good store. It's all here. This is what you're doing here. You're here to help and to be helped, and for other people to see things from a different perspective than you or Mr. Gill. A lot of people here. Take advantage of it. Another idea somewhere. Paula, what do you think about all this jive?
Well, I like what you said about energy never being destroyed, and I believe that. And I don't really think we have our own ideas at all. I think it's all a big symphony, so to speak. And it's all going on at once. And you tune in here, you tune in over there, and you begin to vibrate with whatever you're close to. And all of the ideas associated with a certain realm of thinking are then available, potentially, to your thinking. And not that anyone is making up new ideas. I think they all exist. I think that's what sort of God is the all and everything in the mind of the all. So it's important to associate with vibrations that are good for you and good for whatever it is you're trying to do.
Can vibrations that are not good for you somehow jump into the mix?
Of course. Of course. And that's really, I think that's the dance, because you can choose to sit somewhere and say, oh, I'm bubbling and I'm happy and isn't this great that I'm here in this body. And then there are all the times when you're not. And that's the contrast, how to get from one to the other and on that continuum, polarity, or whatever it is. From, oh, right now I feel really great, to, ugh, why don't I feel great? And then there's your work to get back to that other place.
I think that you're almost saying that we are in many ways defenseless. The trap door to the mind. Sounds like Bulldog Drummond. The trap door to the mind where these ideas jump in.
Well, maybe we're not entirely defenseless after we work for a while.
How many of us work for a while?
Well, look at this room.
Yeah, 12 out of 54,000 isn't too bad. Yeah. Is there somewhere in your presenting that idea that maybe it's erroneous for me to say to myself, that stupid idea, you are some jerk?
Right, identifying with anything as if it were your idea.
As if it were your idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to listen to that like 6 times in my mind, maybe 60. As if it were your idea. I'm a jerk, I'm stupid, I'm the greatest saxophone player that ever lived, all day long, all night long. As if it were your idea. As if the noise in your head is created by you. And she is presenting and I'm presenting. It's not. It's floating around the air. And I think I once recall a Buddhist teacher that I was with in India. that ideas exist and we latch onto them. Have you studied anything like that or thought about it?
Absolutely, all the time, every day. It's my main work. One of my main works, in a way. When you talk about, the obstacles that we discover or that appear while we're working toward an aim, and then that, that ghost in the corner connects with you. It's just, first of all, where's the corner and who's the ghost? I mean, that's one point of view. Because maybe each situation is equally valid. Okay? But to the extent that we identify with it, right? That I identify with that voice corresponds to that thing that may be blocking me in the execution of my aim or the accomplishment of my aim. Right? So there's some correspondence. It's not just an accident that voice jumped in. There was some magnet, some connection because we're merged. But I think it's always that awareness of discriminating. What aspect of my consciousness is that? Is it something that I can free myself from? That pattern, that condition, that illusion of that identity. Can I let that identity go? Will that bring me closer to the aim? And after all, maybe also the pursuing of an aim. The aim is not necessarily that important. The pursuing is important. There's something to do with the spirit. And the aim, the accomplishment, it's just a milestone. It's just a marker. It's just a little tick, on the lifetime measurement of whatever we did. Big deal. Move on. So it just seems always a process of discrimination, being aware, just distilling things in our consciousness, and then what's the self? The Dalai Lama, for example, said, what is the self? Right? Is the self the one who has these ideas, or who is cognizant? Is that the self? Or is it the awareness of the cognizance? Is that the self? Right? It's complex. And it's a dance. But I think as we move forward and we evolve and we recognize that we're one family, some deep method, some compass, some method of priority guides us, and becomes that sort of, cutting edge, what we do, what we don't do. Do we turn left, do we turn right? Do we go with that idea or with that person or with, that movement or whatever? So, being alive in the moment and seeing all the complexity of whatever, the illusion of the ego, the fallacy of perception, the practicality of, seeing what works now, that's appropriate, that's compassionate, that's wise. These are things that take a lot of processing and experience. You don't get that when you're 20. This discipline, this practice that we've learned, and we perhaps, discipline becomes how we live. And you always used to say that, dare to live. But live, in the full spectrum, because that's something you never find out what the edges are. You can be raw, you can be vulnerable, you can be powerful, you can be precise, you can be sensitive, you can be all these things, all at once. You know, I think that's living. So, it means a lot to me what you said tonight, Gil. And I find it very empowering also, working with everyone tonight.
I remember once asking Joseph Goldstein, how come in some literatures I read many far out things, this world, this life, another life, ghosts, if you will, spirits, if you will, and I never got a satisfactory response. Got brushed aside for whatever reason. When David Glass went to what used to be the temple at it's a country that has changed names. It's now Myanmar.
Yeah.
Before it was
Burma.
Burma,
Okay.
the Burmese temple.
All right.
And I said to David, ask them there, is there such a thing as another world, spirit, so that... I said, my has led to nothing. I can't get an answer. David went, and he came back, and he said that they told him there, don't blab about this much, because it's not good for a beginner to think of these ideas. But yes, yes, holy smoke, there's a whole realm called Tibetan Buddhism, I believe, that good. Maybe at that point I realized that my mom wasn't a crazy old woman for believing in spirits and bringing me up in the belief of spirits.
Gil. To have an authentic experience of this, it's not a conceptual experience. This is something else. This is something rather blunt and real. So I think blabbing about it, you know, maybe enters into and invokes more conceptual shit, you know, more conceptual burdens,
Yeah.
you know, that then become obstacles
Burdens,
to
yeah.
experience.
Mhm.
Obstacles to experience.
Yeah.
But you know, having the stability of consciousness that permits yourself to experience these things, you know, permits yourself to really concentrate and with that kind of stability really perceive clearly what's going on. Yeah. This is not for beginners.
No, not for beginners.
So you know,
You don't blab about it to beginners.
The other day I was thinking about, you know, Santa Claus, right? There's also that layer or those dimensions of fabricated projections that collectively as a society we create. We fabricate these phantom, you know, realities that become, to some extent, they have power and gravity because we all agree. You know, we all agree about these concepts, right? Deities, you know, all those kind of things. But then there's that fabricated thing, but then maybe there's that real thing. Okay. The real spirit world or the make-up spirit world that we all agree to. That's a fiction. Some discrimination necessary to see the difference.
It's a world unto itself that must be understood, accepted, and measured carefully, and remembering that in mystical terms, that's a minefield. These are many ideas that older, experienced students know about. How's your work going, Paul?
Doing very well, thank you.
What are you working on now?
I've recreated myself a bit. I got a little ensemble together and I'm conducting it. So it's the first time I've actually been the conductor of my own work. And I got to a point in my life where, as a composer, I wasn't really coming out into the world. That wasn't a personality that could really be in the world, or it was more of a personality that waited for things, or very private and very sensitive. But in a way, I've just put on a new hat, and I really like it. It has a different tone. It has a whole different range of personality features that I'm beginning to explore, and it's fun.
I think that the world has loved your work. Because the few times I hear of it, because I don't walk in that world that often, is very well spoken of.
Thank you. And I'm going to take it out on a wider level and see if that's really true. I said to my pieces, you can't live at home anymore. You've got to go out, make a living, have a life.
Sometimes the issues that nurture a particular idea come least expected and seem to us in our day-to-day thinking to be somewhat fantastic. There was a woman who was a musician in Paris called Boulanger, Madame Boulanger. She was the epitome. You could go no higher than her. And what she said, really, people took very, very seriously. A young man came to her and said, I want to be a composer. What I want to do. She said, let me hear something or present it. She said, I don't know. What do you do now? He said, well, I play piano in saloons in Argentina. His name? Astor Piazzolla. She said, go back to what you're doing and consider that to be the art form that you've yearned for. And he was hippie enough to do it. And his name is a legend, more than a legend, Astor Piazzolla. Was it Madame Boulanger that spoke those words? I choose to add another dimension. Was she somebody who could be in touch with energies that knew and spoke? Who knows what entity spoke through her? Going into 35 years here, I've said it 1,000 times, make it 1,001. I don't remember anything I say here. I just can't remember it. Ask me tomorrow what this meeting was about. I'll feel pretty lucky if I remember being here. Generally, I don't remember what I say, All the meetings over the phone, I say tape them, copy them, write whatever. I won't remember it. I have never walked into this room or any room like it with any faint idea of what I'm going to say. Nothing, never, ever. I say hello. That's something might occur to me. Somebody might say hello back. Well, now it's cooking. The more I live, the more I find that I'm involved in a great, great mystery, unfathomable. It's called being alive for me. It was John a few minutes ago said something about being 20. At the time that you were saying about being 20, I had just been thinking of my being 20. But how do we read these things? And this sort of thing happens, of course, with people all the time. I was thinking, gee, when I was 20, I was firmly convinced that if you weren't an indelibly imprinted great saxophone player, give it up, forget it, it's all over. If you still haven't become a household word by the time you're 24 or 25, get out of the business, stop. Go do something else. You haven't got it. And I believed it. And it twisted things around for me you cannot believe. I believed it. And today, coming in the car, we hear musician playing, Phil Woods, and we know Phil. Phil's somebody we see all the time. And Phil was considered to be the white bird and all this that happened. And Phil is 83, 85 years old now. He has been making it for many, many years. He continues to make it. Wow, I wish I hadn't believed the man that said that to me. But on the other side, I believed it, and yeah, boy, whew, did that change everything in the world. It cemented in me the idea that I, for one, must never ever say to somebody, you can't do it. Because people need some sort of faith in themselves that they can, or go ahead, go with. And yet so many people in our psychological world, in our psychiatric world, in many, many worlds, have taken it to task that they must remind others how little they know, how stupid they are, that they really can't make it unless they do this or do that. And I could never ever say that to a human being because I know the pain attached to that. At all times, here and there, we believe ideas that are not nurturing for us. We don't know where they come from. We just don't know that we are entities that absorb knowledge, absorb ideas, and we're told that there are a bunch of energies and entities here. Which of these entities here believes the statement it hears and thinks that it's hearing the truth and changes its life around to exist within a complex of other entities? one thing that every individual, and you will in your days, you will have families, you will have children, you will have an entire life. I think the most basic piece of reality that you can afford to hand somebody is the idea, yes, you can. You can, if you want it enough, you can. And don't let anyone ever, ever, ever convince you that you can't, that you're not good enough, that you're an also-ran, that the magic is out there for somebody else. Magic is there for you if you want it. What do you think? About anything?
I agree, magic is out there. I brought up so many ideas in this room tonight that I was remembering back that 14 years ago when I first met you about this time of year. I was really just I couldn't do anything. I could barely get to you. I did a good act, but I couldn't really do anything I said I was going to do, and I had great ability to reason that away. And in that first year, you gave me 16 aims that ran concurrently. And I did them perfectly to the letter for years and years and years. And when I screwed up, part of the aim was call you, write you. But what happened was that everything changed. Drastically and dramatically and quickly. I became kind of a bit more upright, and I could do things, and I could look myself in the mirror, which was also one of the aims. I had to do that every day, whether or not I could stand the sight of it, and then it became a magical experience. I don't know if it matters where ideas come from, whether they're from spirits or past lives or alternate realities or parallel universes or your best friend or your teacher or a book or a moving image. What does matter is that I have achieved a level of development that I know how, or I have a mechanism built into me to be able to filter those ideas properly, and to know the difference. It's really important to know the difference between negative and something that comes from light. And it's very important to attract, to become a being that is capable of attracting light, so that when gravity comes hunting you, which it will do, you have the capacity to fend off the negative and the dark. You know, this is what this work has been for me through these years. And it doesn't necessarily get easier, but I become more certain that there is an I, and that something can be done, and I am not helpless to it, and that I have a school around me to help my growth and my learning continue to occur. That's what I think tonight. I couldn't have done any of it without you. So, thank you.
Jill, it seems important to acknowledge, to me it seems important to acknowledge this place. Because the place has it, it's not just ideas, the place has a power. You say for 35 years you've been here. You know, I don't know, I feel that every time I walk into this room, what's been created here over the years, and you know, I think that a lot of it's due to Pamela and what she does, including providing a space for this meeting. But it's like for me, the power to attract light, to recognize light, to remember the yes you can amidst what you used to describe as the 6 down elevators. They're always there, and you got to kind of hunt around to find the up elevator. But this place has always been such a place for me. And I just feel, I recently, a couple of years ago, moved back to New York after being in California for 5 years. And even in California, I would think of, often on Thursday nights and at different times, I'd think of this place. Because it has such a, the spirits, at least the light spirits that are huddled in the corner, they're in these corners. There's a lot of things that go on. New York's an incredible place. There's a lot of things that go on Thursday nights in New York, and this is very, very unique. It's very special. And Gil started tonight correctly, as he often does, to just acknowledge the gratitude to be here and to be here together. It's an unusual thing, and if this were flooded out and the meeting took place somewhere else, it would be a different meeting. I'm very sure of that. So I just, that's always been really important for me, to look for the places that have that power and that can add to that part of oneself that wants to do something. And I feel, grateful to Gil, grateful to Pamela, and to all of you for helping create that here. It's something that is very, very unique, and I'm reminded of what Gil talked about, of the great, mystery of which we're all taking part and observing. It's there's always in some way this space here is a window into that mystery for me.
I would just add to that, you have to do things in a space. I mean, you have to recognize the space is like another entity that you're communicating with. And you can't be given a space like this unless you made a promise to serve the work or work like it. And everything you do is registered. Things are registered in this space. The amount of light that it's created, generated, and extends outward into, as Alex was saying, these other domains that could come from there or here or wherever. And all those layers of conscious action are here, and they're here to be used. And I have to remember that myself, how much has been given. And I remember when I moved into this place, and this place was also done by everybody in the work. This was renovated by people in the work. So it's quite unique. I don't know, it's not really protected, so in a year or so, either it will have the strength to exist and not be, and sort of be invisible to other forces of gravity, or it will recreate itself. But when I first moved in, I saw that outside the side window, it was a doorway to the Himalayas. In other places, it's very layered, and it has much knowledge. So I think as Stefan's saying that, for all things that are of this frame of magic, how significant they are, and how much they're not just available anywhere, and all of its incarnations. Power is power.
I remember Pamela's early meetings. I think Pamela was here for a couple of years before she said a word. Looked at the floor, come in, look at the floor. And 2 hours later, we'd go home. That was it. And then she started talking. And now look what we've done. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that we can learn is that there is magic. There really is. I know no one wants to believe that or think it can't be. But there is. This place is, this room is incredible. The things that have happened here are incredible. The things that have been said here, amazing. Making a left out of the building to the corner, 6th and 28th, another left going uptown, about 2 or 3 businesses in, it's no longer there, was a place called Bernie's. Anybody remember Bernie's? At Bernie's you bought everything that had to do with appliances, from refrigerators to everything in the world. And the staff was a knowledgeable bunch of guys who were great, and they knew everything about everything that you wanted to buy. Fantastic. People drove in from Bernie's, from Connecticut, from states. They were here on 28th Street. Years and years I hear another part of this legend. Bernie's was on the street floor. On the 2nd or 3rd floor dwelt a jazz community the likes of which has not been seen or heard of in New York. Phil Woods was there all the time, Frank Rehak. Jazz supermen, giants, immortals were all jamming here into the night above Bernie's. David Glass says to me, "Oh, David Liebman, he's a man who walks with a polio limp. I remember him walking all around here with his tenor sax." Yeah. Whew. If the United States gave Sirdoms, it would be Sir Liebman. Recognized by Washington, recognized by the world. All this right here within these few blocks. Across the street from them was a guy called Hal Galper. What a piano player! There's no one alive in this music jazz industry all over the world who hasn't heard of Hal Galper. Holy smoke. To think that all this can happen on a half of a block of Manhattan, it's just amazing. Beyond belief. But it happened. These are the true things that happen on this block. I believe Pam was the first member in the first group. Holy smoke. You're one of the founding mothers or something.
And I had the privilege of meeting Paula and being the first person to talk to her, and I remember her saying she wanted to be a composer. And I remember that exactly, her saying it, and the energy that, and how that was her. And to say it out loud, very simply and clearly, is the beginning of that vibration.
There was a guy in group who would come with his girlfriend, and he was a doctor of some kind, or studying to be a doctor, or close to being a doctor or something. And I wanted him to do jobs of like connecting wires, putting in extension cords, simple stuff. He said, I can't do anything with my hands. I can't hold it. Everything falls apart. I can't. Try it. I'll try it. In nearby Jersey, he's an eye surgeon. He reached the point where he thanked me. He said, I learned to use my fingers and my hands running extension cords, screwing wires, because that's the job you gave me. Yeah, I made him wire up this whole place and put together 75 extension cords and screw in the wall. Surgeon, Joel Confino, Dr. Confino. He's in the phone book. What do you think in there?
I was thinking about vibrations. Everything. All shapes, all people, all colors have vibrations. Thank you for you guys coming tonight. We've been here for so long. When John sat down and filled up the circle, there was a very, very strong vibration. Close the circle. And there's places in the earth and the world that have an intense vibration. This is one of them. In Dushan's loft, where you spoke 2 weeks ago, you can feel in the walls the work that's done, the vibration. It seeps into material. The work that we do seeps into us, on a cellular level. We can pass that on to generations. By speaking, we create a vibration. And what we say can either have tremendous weight or not.
If we believe that it can. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to believe the extra stuff that we're capable of or that happens to us. If it happens to Merlin, sure. But for it to happen to us, regular cats, I think about this 25,000 times, this room, the group being here for so many years, all the incredible things. I'm a beat up saxophone player from the East Bronx. It's like, holy smoke, I never dreamt of this in my entire life. It never entered my mind. There it was Pampered. And we wind up here. It's just amazing that life is this incredible and this interesting. I hadn't thought about Joel Confino for years. Wow. One night, whose idea was it to cut a hole through that brick? Yours or mine? That was a brick wall with real plaster on it. We took off the real plaster and there was bricks. I said, let's cut a hole in the brick. And we started hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. The first brick fell out and then we hit it. Now it's what it is.
It took us about 50 hours
50 hours.
to do the
It
prep.
came to my idea, we want to work. 50 hours straight, no vacations, no getting off, no going to bed. Don't you dare tell me you're tired. People, we worked for 50 hours. Think this. Work goes on through the first day, the second day, the whole night. Guy goes running up the stage. He says, I live downstairs. I can't stand it anymore. Stop it. You're driving me crazy, you people. And that's all I got to say. And he runs out, grabs the door, and slams it behind himself. But he hasn't gone down the stairs. He's gone into the closet. He came back and he laughed and roared. Oh, what a scene, what a scene. Unbelievable. So it's, one way of looking at it for me is, this is the most real space in the whole world for me. This is really, really, really real. Things have really happened here. Sue used to play here.
I'm going to play here Sunday.
You're going to play here Sunday? Yeah, but you used to get paid. Maybe you didn't.
Not very much.
It was the same as not getting paid.
Everyone's invited to the party.
Thomas Chapin used to play here. That's another story, another legend. What a legend. They're just discovering these recordings he made. They're 15 years old? Or more?
Or more.
They're just finding them now.
They're available.
Hmm?
So they're for sale now.
Yeah, they're for sale now.
Extraordinary. They found these little DAT tapes or little recordings in a cigar box or something, and it turned out they were perfect. They weren't ruined in any way. So it's a new 3D set of music that's never been heard.
This guy was some saxophone player. Unbelievable. Been dead 15 years or something. People talk of him. Unbelievable. So, I think we walk around with it if we want. Always that we have magic right in our hands. Unbelievable things happening to unbelievable people and unbelievable. This is incredible. And we're part of it. It isn't that we're reading about it. This is it. We're it.
I just wanted to mention someone who isn't in our formal group and is in our group meetings with Alex, which is Hunter Barnes. And I just want to mention him tonight because he as a show that happened, the launch, right, the reception, or whatever it was tonight, and at Mill Gallery. And he lived with a group of snake handlers. And the incredible faith of these people. And he is such a special person that they encouraged him. They were waiting for him to document and bring into the future their faith.
Who is this you're speaking of?
Hunter Barnes. He came.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And like I was almost in tears and have been all night thinking about the beauty and the power and the illumination of this man's devotion and the devotion of these people who are dwindling out on this plane, but really having some strength that will carry them wherever they're going. They're on a voyage. Your piece about the voyage, they're on a voyage. And that he had the sensitivity and the capacity to document, in a sense, enliven and nurture these group of souls. I recommend that everyone go, and I just want to honor his work and him as a person in our circle.
Get me more information. I met him, of course.
I have the book. He
the-
gave me a
lend me
gift
the
of
book.
one of his books.
I may be not wrong, I think. He's an extremely handsome man, if he's the guy I think of. He was down at the Sarva.
No, he came to the first one there. The one that you did last year. You met Hunter last year. And he came to this room a few times. Has a beard, slick back hair. Looks a bit like a greaser. Style.
Where are we? I'm struggling to. The last thing I remember was, Pennsylvania. Think of, yeah.
But extraordinary consciousness.
Apropos of what several people have spoken of tonight, I think it's really important for everybody to be doing something that's they feel they feel passionate about right now. I was really pleased to hear that Peter found a way to be making the music that he wants to create right now, and that he found out that it didn't matter where he did it. The only important thing was that he do it. And Gil was speaking last meeting or 2 meetings ago about having a cause and how important it was to have something that was that draws oneself toward it, so that it's not always about you and feeling like I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No, there's a thing out here that I'm drawn to, and that's a connection. And this is my concept of the universe. Paula was speaking about this, John was speaking about this. There's a whole lot of stuff out there. There's millions, trillions, gazillions of things. And so, but you have to pick 1 or 2 or 3 of them and just do that. Because there's too much out there. No one person can have everything. So you have to find that one little section that you're going to make that connection with. And I think that's very much what work is about, is finding what that connection is that you have with something. And making it as vital and as vibrant and living as you can. Whether it's snake handling or photography or architecture or filmmaking or cleaning toilets. I don't really think it matters. And for some reason, I was thinking of this episode that I had when I was 20. We were talking, you were mentioned life-changing episodes that happen when one's 20, which I imagine everyone when they're 20 has one at least. And I went to a Christmas party. It was around this time. And it's someone's house, and quite a few people there. And I'm sitting in a chair across from the Christmas tree. And the Christmas tree was decorated with those plain white lights. And I'm sitting in the chair looking at the lights, you know. I see Snoopy. Like you're looking at clouds and you see shapes. I saw Snoopy in the lights. And I just thought that that was really neat. And my friend, who was sitting on the other side of the Christmas tree, not the side I was on, but the completely opposite side, said, "Yeah, I see Snoopy." I said, "How can you see Snoopy? You're on the other side. You can't see Snoopy. Only I can see Snoopy because I'm looking at him right here. Look, he's in my lights have Snoopy. Yours can't have Snoopy." And he said, they do. I have Snoopy too." So, you know, to prove to him that he was wrong, I got up and I went around to his side, and he did have Snoopy. So then I realized Snoopy is available for anybody that wants to see him. So what? So you just reach, if you want Snoopy, just reach out and get him, and he'll be there for you. But really, it's it really was a life-changing experience in spite of being humorous.
Before we go on to the next movie, this will be our third year going to Ecuador. Last month's meeting was a big mess. We tried. We thought we could do it with Skype, it didn't work. So while he's here, Mark, you've got to accept, I'm glad you do, set up somewhere the mechanisms, on paper at least, that somebody else can do this Thursday night thing, even if you're not here. Something that somebody else could put together. Because they worked for 2 years, whereas I was in Ecuador and we spoke on Thursday and I could be seen on, I think you had a sheet on the ceiling or something. Anyway, take care of that. Because it was like a no happened last month. Sue and I are thinking of putting the thing of not leaving on the date. We usually leave about the 1st or 2nd or 3rd of January. Maybe we can move that forward. I don't know, but that's still up in the air. But anyway, we will be going. And it's a very interesting place, Ecuador. Where we are is very interesting. It's become an important chunk in our lives. And for us, it's a move that we have to make because I guess so many things have happened politically here that I or we just don't feel that comfortable here and want to start opening a few doors in another country. I'm very interested in Ecuador, as of just very lately extremely interested in Uruguay. These are places where things are going up. Everywhere we walk through this, Cuenca is a historic old town with historic old churches. It's just beautiful, inexpensive. Everywhere you look, there's another building going up. 17-story residences, 10-story residences, 20-story, all over there. Building on every block, there's something going up. You put a few dollars in the bank, it pays 4 or 5% interest. I remember interest. And I understand also that Uruguay is, which is right across the way from Buenos Aires, is also alive. And I remember when this place was very much alive, but there's something very wrong. I'm not a politician that's not my area, but something tells me there's something very, very wrong here. Very wrong. So it's important to us, and we've got a house in the Andes that Sue decided she wanted to be a creator of houses, so she got together with some cats who can do that, and she drew the plans, and this was it, and they built a house according to her plans. It looks pretty groovy. It's not just looking at the Andes, it's in the Andes. Wow. And being from the Bronx, the highest thing I can think of was Crotona Park, which is that was the Andes for me then. God, I lived there. It was really a third world ghetto. So we're doing that, and without the people that we work with in this room, I wouldn't exist. This is what we have created, and we continue to keep it alive. And it's something that gives me life and purpose and direction. And it's, if not the most important thing in my life, which it very well may be, it certainly is up there with them. This is my family. I believe that work means family, and this is my family. And thank you all for being in my life and making my life a thing of beauty. Are there any departing, closing statements?
Is Mark going to say what his name is?
Yes, I was just waiting for that.
Oh, I remember you.
No, I've been. So what I'd like to do is for well, first of all, by way of explanation, for 9 years I did my morning exercises religiously. I maybe missed 3 or 4 times in those 9 years. For the last 6 months, I've pretty much not done them as an exercise. And I'd like to take an aim tonight for the next 52 days. I've chosen 52 because it takes 21 days to form a habit and 30 days to get rid of one, and one for good measure. That I will do an hour's worth of sensing and mirror exercise every day. Particularly, I'm really glad Alexandra mentioned the mirror, because it's one of those that I did very, I loved very much and found a lot in. And the mirror got kind of pushed back behind the desk, and things have gotten in front of it. So I think that's there in many ways needs to be part of my daily work. So for 52 days, so I'll see you in February on that point, and we'll have good rapport.
And if there's any lack,
If there's any lack, who shall I call?
To all.
Say again?
The to all email.
To all. Okay, I'll email Alexander. And you.
and
I don't want you.
I'm glad I got into the picture somehow. Yeah.
Gil, excuse me. During the our Skype meeting, you suggested that I need to study Tai Chi. And I'm a Tai Chi dropout. And I tried many times, but this evening somehow, maybe Johnny's here, maybe the Tai Chi became like Buddhist idea. I don't like it, but I be a Buddhist and learn how to do it as an aim. So I'm not actually signed up for the aim, but I'm contemplating on it. And I follow.
You window shopping.
No, but I'll do it. I have to. You told me to find a teacher.
Yes.
Who is very conscious.
Yes.
So I work on that, and it's a scary idea because I've dropped out so many times. But I'd like to bring this out in the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. Mark, while you were speaking, thinking, if you've got this aim, I think it would be a marvelous idea if someone else had an aim along, sort of, doesn't have to be the same aim, but also with you at the same time, that you could bounce back off each other.
I'll take it with you. I'll take it with Mark. I'll do the same aim with Mark.
Yeah. It's also important to have a kind of a partner to work with. What we're facing, I've called the spirit of gravity for many years. It's just a phrase I made up, I think. But whatever that negative force is, I firmly believe it exists, and it seeks to attack everyone I've ever thought of. I believe it's a force that lives from the sufferings and frustrations and angers and negative minds of people, and it desires nothing more than our unhappiness. And it's our lifetime job to face it squarely and keep it in its place. It'll never stop clamoring, to my knowledge, but we can stop believing it and buying its propaganda. Speaking to David a few nights ago, we spoke about his son Abraham. I found myself saying to David, make every attempt to teach Abraham to sense himself and to be in sensing with himself, because I think that's something that will help him tremendously. Sensing himself will put to life, bring to life, maintain in life a part that Abraham needs.
Why are you saying this now?
I wanted to say it before, and I'm feeling that David is also here too. His life was also entwined in this room.
When we began, here, 1978 or whatever, when I started coming, David brought me here.
I remember.
Might have been 76 up at 72nd Street, but down here it was more like 77, 78, right?
Yeah.
But I remember, because 72nd Street was like one-on-one, and I think occasionally I came to a group on 72nd. But I remember sitting here and working on sensing. And to share with you all, that I remember very distinctly, I couldn't understand whether my hands were on my knees, palm down or palm up, at a certain point. And over the years, I've come to sort of learn a little bit about the energetic body, or the light body. Thank you for bringing up the, reality of luminosity, right, Alex? And that luminous sort of entity within us, that maybe is really infused with everything. Okay. Maybe it's something that Abraham actually can't control. It's something that's so potent that it's an interesting issue, because he seems as though he's only that being, that vibrancy, Right. So there's something there to to work with, to discipline.
I believe so, and I don't know why I believe so.
That's really interesting.
But
He
I had
has
never
this
thought of
thing.
that idea for him.
He's been trying to leave the house. Did David tell you that?
No.
Abraham is an autistic kid. Maybe you all know that. I don't know. But recently he bolted. He left the apartment and went out into the city. And he made his way to his grandparents' house, something like this. So, this guy, he's got this sort of autonomy, right? That wants to just,
Live.
be free, right? Fly, It's very interesting. Anyway, Gil, the man that I've been studying with, who you met many years ago, that Lama, the Tibetan guy,
Years ago.
asked me about 3 years ago to start to teach meditation practice. The practice, part of the practice that I'm teaching is this experience of watching your thoughts, watching thoughts. Anyway, the experience of teaching, I've discovered for me, it's one of the sanest experiences I can have in this lifetime. And I believe that sanity, that taste of sanity, that sort of, freshness and vividness of it began here, with you. That we live in that, we dwell in that realm here. I think we define it in the most, generous way. But I think we live that way, all of us. We're occupying that realm of sanity. So, very grateful and honored, all these years to be part of your community, our community. Not a
I'm
small-
honored
not a
to
small
for
thing,
knowing
not a
you,
small thing, yeah.
for sharing work with you. This is something that there's really no accurate description of. A thought enters my mind that somebody said something about things being alive, And I think at that instant it came across my mind to think that a stone is alive. A stone is growing, it's developing, it's changing. It's alive in its own definition of being alive. But it's alive. Important to remember that, I think, when we evaluate what we believe is alive and what we believe is not alive. It takes more than a moment's decision. Things are alive. Well, we'll talk next week, next month, through the ethers. As time passes, my advice is save your money and don't fall.